audience's eye is getting so sophisticated that visual effects has to be bigger, better, stronger, faster. It's got to be your imagination on steroids.
Our show seems to have a lot of very difficult effects that are small moments on the page that take a lot of time to pull off.
We're really just there to try and support and tell the tale. We just want to be in and out incognito style.
We often tweak the rules each time we have a different vampire or a different demon. Rules can change according to dramatic storylines. What works for the story works for us.
As far as the lore of visual effects, we sort of take our cues from the writers and Eric and their staff for how I design the shots. They've done an incredible amount of research, and once we get into post-production, I've got an idea of what their parameters are.
The beginning of building a creature for our show starts in the writer's room. When we're conceiving of any of the monsters, we start to talk about what it will look like, and we frame the question based on what would be the scariest.
You know, you sit down, you go, do we buy it? Is this scary? Will this give room for Sam and Dean to have what they need as characters in a story, an ongoing story? Will it give us that combination of conceptually spooky and visually achievable, which is really, I think, the line that we walk on this particular show.
And from there, it just becomes a completely collaborative project.
It takes Ivan to do what the visual effects angle, Randy to do what the special effects, with the blood or the smoke, Toby to do what the makeup effects. All of those factors are very consciously thought about before we ever bring Ivan or Kim or any of the gang up north into the mix, and then we, start evolving it and making it better and better, based on their expertise.
A lot of times, Eric or Kim will have a strong idea in terms of what they want to see. So we'll start it with a concept meeting and get some further sort of nudges in terms of direction.
Visual effects can do anything if we have the time, the money, and the budget. And in television, we typically don't have any of those sorts of things. So that's where we lean on our special effects guys and our special effects makeup guys. So visual effects and special effects are tied very closely together, and they're tied very closely together with special effects makeup with Toby over at Schminken Studios.
There is a blurry line between makeup effects, visual effects, and special effects. The neat thing is there's a lot of gags or sequences on the show that will require all three. Neck appliances. We do a lot of slash throats. That's the seems to be the chosen method that the demons sort of kill the humans by. Generally, makeup effects is called in whenever there's an organic creation, something replicating skin or something living or once living. And then special effects is generally dealing with atmospheric. Also, they take care of a lot of blood rigs when there's not skin visible, like squib hits, explosion rigs.
Say if we were going to explode something, for instance. What I do is I envision my concept of what this should be like. You have a squib in here, you have a blood pack, and then everything's housed into a package. And then we'll put it onto a jacket that's slightly scored out, and it'll be all taped in, and then supported with neoprene. We use a little bit of cherries to add to the consistency of the blood. And then we're gonna strap this on his back. So when you see the shot, you won't see this. This will be hit by his shoulder. And then when we fire the squib will be in the foreground, and you'll see the spray on the wall as if there was an exit wound on the backside of his shoulder. And then these details are kind of hammered out with the director. I ask him, what do you want to see? How big do you want it to be? How gory does it have to be? How much blood can we do? Like, if we're going to do a bullet hit, where should it be?
This one would be a heart shot.
Yes, it's going to be right up in here someplace, and I, again, want a blood pump from you, Randy. I want to keep it going.
Okay.
So if I've got him laying like on his back, he could put a blood pump ball in his right hand probably.
When you say blood pump, do you want it just running?
I see it just gushing blood.
Gushing up?
Just blooming on his clothes.
From my standpoint, by the time Toby and Lance have gone to the meetings, it's been pulled in, and it's usually already been set up by production as to what technically they want to see, and the designs have been done. And then we get to kind of push it as much as possible from a technical point by deciding how it's going to get built, what's the best way, or what new materials we can kind of push to make the things out of and try to make it better every time. Just trying to do something different too. Try not to do the same thing you've seen 100 times before. You always want to give it that little tweak to kind of make it personalized, which Supernatural's done definitely in setting up its own look and its own presentation of the way things are.
Because our little group of writers is kind of cloistered away in Burbank, California, and everybody else is up north in Vancouver, our dealings with everybody is usually by email and over the phone. And when you're producing an episode, there's a lot of phone calls about, you know, so the blood can be piped in through like a little tube under the shirt, or we could do it as special effects, but then we have to do it this way, and then you have to go back and sort of look at the scene again from the perspective of, okay, how can we make the blood hit the wall in this scene? And sometimes take the scene apart and put it back together so that it will be more visually arresting when they shoot it.
A lot of the times we'll do a lot of the wounds and the gashes and that sort of things. Toby will do an appliance that he'll make bleed, and all I'll do is make it a reveal or appear.
So do we want to see the little one on the left arm at all then?
Well, let's see. I think he says, there's a piece of dialogue, I think he says 3 on each arm. Yeah.
Okay.
Or if Toby's doing a gag and he's like, he'll call me up and go, hey, Ivan, you know what? With what they're talking about, I'm going to have blood tubes coming up the back of the arm, and, you know, we're going to have someone in there. What can you do for me? Can you paint that stuff out? Do you have it in your budget? Do you have the time?
Hey, can you help me out with a little blood here, Ivan, more than what we have?
Yeah, we'll try and doll it up a bit for you.
Okay, great.
And it really helps everybody come along, you know, puts everybody on board.
There's a lot of scenes and moments throughout the whole season where we'll call Ivan and we'll be like, hey, Ivan, something cool here, and he'll just figure it out.
Typically when I get a script, the first thing I do is read through it with my highlighter and just highlight anything that could be a visual effects shot. And I mean anything. A lot of times in the script, sometimes they'll just say, in some cool TBD visual effect, and they just leave it up to us. And they, you know, I'll call them and say, are you thinking something more like this? What do you think about, you know, to try and get a feel for what the rules are, and we'll come up with what these sort of things may look. How is it going to die? Is it going to be a big ball of fire? Is it going to be a peaceful, you know, expiring of a life force? So I'll really mull it over and talk to my guys, Mark and Mike, and see if they have any ideas or have come up with anything, and design how it gets shot.
That's a real fun part of our job, you know, designing from script. We'll receive a script and it'll just be pages that'll sort of briefly describe the look of a given creature or an effect or a death. Really, the trick in the end was to give it a chamber that it could cut into and to really feed the front side of it, so that we could direct what we wanted to land on the camera side of the blade, and put a couple of chunks of spine and viscera on that side. And get the blade spinning with gore.
When we're coming up with creatures, we pretty much always start with the lore, and from there we take a lot of sort of creative liberties with the creature, and we mold it, and we also always try to think of something about the creature that's different, that'll kind of distinguish the creature as it appears in Supernatural from the version of the creature you might have seen in a movie or in a book.
Most of the indications of what these things should look like and what they must become, they come, I think, in part from Eric and Bob, you know, sort of negotiating with reality and what they can actually get on a TV schedule.
We definitely factor in budget and time. I mean, look, the reality is, I think the team that we have in place in Vancouver with enough time and enough money, could accomplish anything. Most shows contract out to other places, and we don't. We have guys who work exclusively 24/7 on Supernatural, and so their head is always in the game. And so you have to be smart about what we can accomplish on our schedules and on our budgets.
Talking about the morph from Ed into Trickster, things to consider are hair, wardrobe. Is it just him changing?
It's a long process in some ways, though somewhat shortened, to bring a creature to life. Often it starts with us researching what are these things? Because we don't necessarily know all of them right off the bat.
I guess that's a good thing, actually. Work, we get to hop on all the sites that most people would get fired for if they were caught doing it. Here, if you walk into this trailer, and we've got a number of different things up on our screens. We're on every gore site, and that's kind of where we get a lot of our inspiration from. It's good reference material.
There's a large photo morgue that's been set up in the shop of just shot after shot of pretty much anything twisted you wanted to see, from industrial accidents to diseases, and just seeing what other people's takes have been on it through the years. And then we'll kind of take it and see what we can do to give it a little tweak as well.
And we begin to develop concepts. We fool around on the computer, changing sizes of eyes, changing teeth length, and this and that. It really depends on what the creature is. And then we submit it to the creator and the director and say, well, do you think this is going to work? And then you get feedback from them, and we go forward. We get Toby involved and see what he can do.
Then we have the visual effects, special effects stunts meeting, and that's where Randy, Lou, myself, and the directors and the ADs, we all sit down and we start to actually talk brass tacks.
The whole idea of the meeting is to hammer out as many details as we can, interdepartmentally, and also from the director's point of view.
This is going to be a visual effect. So how are we going to do this?
Well, we've got the digital stills of Dean. We've already started building it in the wardrobe that Diane's got, so we've already started building on him. Shots will be set up. Right now, Mike is working on building a 3D or virtual Jensen Ackles. We, in this episode, get to kill Dean by being hit by a car and dropping a desk on his head, and we like to see his face. And as much of a nice guy as Jensen is, he won't let us hit him with the car.